Rainbow Six Siege is the hardest FPS in the world to get good at. So in today's video, I'm going to be helping every single rank out to at least get to the next rank that you want to get in. Starting from the very bottom of the barrel, we have the worst players in the game, which are copper players. Now, if I had one piece of advice that I could give to every single copper player, it would be simply to work on your aim. You could honestly work on your aim so much all the way up to like gold. You can know absolutely nothing about the game and shoot your way to gold, I promise you. But for my copper players for now, if you just work on your aim, whether it be recoil control, flicking, crosshair placement, whatever it may be, just work on your mechanics, you will get out of copper in like a month. It's not going to be that hard. It's a very easy rank to get out of. Once you're out of copper, you're going to be into the next rank, which is bronze. Bronze is a little bit harder to get out of. And I think one thing that can help you get out of the rank is learning general map knowledge. Just memorizing a layout of every map, going in a custom game for every map, memorizing the layout, memorizing what the rooms look like, what the rooms are called with your compass, learning the callouts, and just getting general map knowledge. You can just see pro players or streamers that are giving callouts in their streams or YouTube videos as well, so that you know all of the specific callouts. And there are even map guides like ones on my channel that tell you all of the callouts for every single map, so you can look those up and just get general map knowledge. When you have map knowledge, you're able to receive and give callouts, and if you have that plus good aim, there's not a lot that an enemy team can do to stop you. Which is why I think that if you want to get out of bronze, learning general map knowledge about what the map is, all 16 maps, all of the callouts, every room, where the bomb sites are, and how to attack it, will generally get you out of bronze and into the next rank in today's video, which is silver. Now, a lot of people are in silver. It's one of those middle of the pack ranks that a lot of people will be hard stuck in. And I think one of the mistakes that a lot of people make that you can easily correct is just learning where the default pushes and holds are for every single bomb site. So in the last tip, we talked about map knowledge, and that's just where the rooms are, what they're called, and how to give callouts. But this tip is a little bit more specific. You should not only learn where all of the bomb sites are and what all the rooms are called, but you should now know as a defender where the attackers are probably going to push. You should know where the front side pushes, where the back side pushes, where the main walls to site are, so you know what to reinforce. You should know where all the rotates go. You should know where to hold as a defender as well. So you need to know what rooms to hold, where to look, where the attackers are going to come, or as an attacker where you need to be going, and where the defenders are going to be sitting to counter you. You can't really practice this. It's really only something that you can learn the hard way, which is just by playing the game over and over and over and over and over again and memorizing it. So unlike the last two tips, you can't really work on this. You're just going to develop this over time, which is why over time, most people do graduate out of silver, because this is the one thing that separates the low rank player from the mid ranked player. Just general game sense. Where are they sitting? Where do I need to push? Where are they pushing? Where do I need to sit? It's very easy stuff, but you can't really learn it. You just have to play the game enough to have it as just like an instinct or something in the back of your mind that you already know. Speaking of general knowledge of where they're going to be, once you graduate out of silver and you are in gold, congratulations, you are now in the mid-tier ranks. This is where players start to become at least a little bit good, and the one thing that you can do to just get a general edge on your enemies is to focus very, very hard on information. You should always be on default cameras at the start of the round. You should always be droning yourself in. You should always have your prep phase camera on like a staircase or in a corner as a flank camera that you're going to use later in the round, or as a cutoff camera you're going to use to drone yourself in later. You should always be having some sort of information operator, whether it be Mira, Valkyrie, even Maestro, or at least have some sort of barbed wire for staircases, playing Melusi, playing traps, playing Legion, whatever it may be. You always want to be trying to prioritize information, especially against a lot of people who like to rush the site and just run in. Having some sort of information is going to help you know where they're coming from, so you don't need to rely on game sense like you did back when you were in silver. Information is so incredibly important in Rainbow Six Siege that back when information was key, even more than it is now, there was something called the information meta because it was so powerful. People would run Maestro, Valkyrie, Echo, and offense would just run IQ and Twitch, and there was literally an entire meta around just information operators because having information is very, very powerful. Knowing what operators are on the defense when you're attacking can give you a general insight into how their hold is going to be. If you know they have a Mira, chances are in your head, you probably know where the Miras go because usually Miras put them on default spots. So just you having information on one single operator allowed you to know how the bomb site's probably going to be held and where they're going to be sitting. The same thing goes for defense. If you notice they have two shield operators, a Finka Lion and an Ashe, and they all spawned on one side of the map, chances are they're probably going to do a rush. And all you had to do to get all of the information on all of that was simply get on a camera. And I think that genuinely separates somebody in the mid-tier rank like gold to the higher mid-tier rank like plat is just having some sort of information. So if you want to get out of gold and you want to get into plat, start prioritizing information or using it to the best of your ability. But now that you're out of gold, let's get into genuinely the most middle of the pack players you will ever meet, and that is plat players. One thing that has plagued this game from even before Emerald or Champion was even a rank is that plat players tend to have big egos. Once you're in plat, you're not considered new to the game anymore, and you're considered to be at least slightly above average. But make no mistake, if you're genuinely hard stuck plat, you are probably average at the game. The issue is that most people in plat have a huge ego and think they're a lot better than they are. And my tip isn't going to be to drop that ego, but it's going to be to drop the ego and start watching people that are actually better than you. This is what I did when I was hard stuck gold or plat. As I started watching Pro League, I started watching tips and tricks content creators, and look at you, you're already doing that, right? So you're already a step there. But if you watch people better than you, you're gonna learn a lot about how they play and, unfortunately, how you play. If you see somebody doing something that you don't do, and you understand why they did it, chances are you were probably doing the wrong thing, and you just learned that you were making a mistake the entire time just by watching somebody who was better than you not making that mistake. You can also see good players capitalizing on people making bad mistakes, and then now you know to not make that bad mistake. So watching people better than you is probably the best thing you can do, especially around the mid-range ranks like plat, because this is where you're going to start to plateau as a player if you don't start to learn really advanced tips and tricks to get an edge on the enemy player who's just running Ashen Duck running around trying to headshot people. So watch people that are better than you, try to get these like little niche like C4 lineups, start doing a zombie pixel peek, start pulling out like really weird stuff that separates you from the average player that gets you a bunch of free kills, and that will get you ranked up pretty fast if you're good at what you're doing. But once you've graduated out of plat, you've dropped your ego, and you've started to watch people that are a bit better than you to learn from your mistakes, now you've reached the first high rank in the game, which is Emerald. Now, Emerald players are probably the hardest to make a tip for, because the rank of Emerald has the widest variety of any sort of player that any other rank has. As somebody who goes from Copper to Champion almost every single season, I can say that my Emerald teammates are either the worst teammates I've ever had or the best. It is a complete cesspool of the most diverse skill group you'll ever see in Rainbow Six Siege. So one thing that I think can help you get out of Emerald is to stop relying on your teammates as much and to start learning when to be aggressive and passive on your own so that you can be the one that sways the match in your favor instead of allowing the enemy to dictate your pace of play. So what does that mean and how can you improve it? Essentially, there are times to be aggressive and there are times to be passive. I've talked about this on my channel, and it's a very complicated subject that's very, very situational, and it can be an entire video in and of itself, but I'll give you one golden rule of thumb that you can use no matter the situation that you're in. Let's say that you're on defense, and you don't know whether you should be going out and swinging and roaming and being aggressive, or maybe just sitting on site holding angles on cameras and being passive. A golden rule of thumb that you can use is if you are down in man count, be aggressive. If they have more enemies than you do teammates, chances are they're going to surround the bomb site, throw a bunch of flash grenades in the bomb site, and just overwhelm you, and you're not going to be able to kill 4 people as one person. Even if you have the best aim in the world and you're somebody like Bolo, nobody is able to shoot 4 people at once. So obviously, being able to even out the man count to make their execute a little bit harder is going to be your best bet. So the only time you want to be aggressive is when you want to get a free pick or two to even out that man count. But what happens when you have the same amount of teammates and enemies, or even better, you have more enemies, or even better, you have more teammates than you do enemies? You're up in man count, right? What are you supposed to do then? Well, that's when you want to play passive on the defense. Remember, they're on attack. They have to plant the bomb. They have to take site. They have to come to you. In a perfect scenario, the attackers are so scared to walk in because you have such a good set. In a perfect scenario, if the attackers never walk in the objective after the 3-minute timer is done, you'll just win the round by default. So if all you have to do theoretically is wait and waste time, in most scenarios as a defender, you just want to be passive and let them waste time. The less time they have, the more hasty decisions and sloppy decisions they're going to have to make, which in turn will win you more rounds. So if you're even or up in man count, play passive. If you're down in man count, play aggressive. The same thing kind of goes for attack. If you're ever really up in man count, that's when you want to start slowing down, you're not really taking rooms, and you want to start droning players, and then setting up for an execute a little bit later. If you're down in man count, that's when you want to bait and start taking a bunch of 1v1s and getting a little bit aggressive with how you're playing so that you could even out the man count, slow down, and then go for an execute later. But learning when to be aggressive and when to be passive single-handedly allows me as a player to carry rounds, and in a rank where you can trust your teammates the least, it's definitely the most important thing that you can learn out of any other rank in this entire video. But once you've mastered the ability to set the pace of the round to exactly what you want to dictate it to, you've officially graduated from Emerald to the Diamond rank. This is the second highest rank in the game, and most good players are in this rank. So what do you do if you want to not only go from a high rank, but to the highest rank in the world, which is Champion? Well, if you want to get out of Diamond, I think the biggest thing that you can do as a Diamond player to hit Champion is constantly being aware of what your teammates are doing so that you know what to do. That might seem like a very surface level and basic tip, but there's levels to this shit, and I'll tell you exactly what I mean. So first of all, if you're a defender and you're defending a bomb site, you should know exactly every single angle that your teammates are holding at all times. And because you have the ability to see your teammates through walls, this shouldn't be that hard to do. The reason that you want to know what they're holding is so that you know what you need to be holding. If there's 4 angles that need to be watched if you need to defend the bomb site and 3 of your teammates are watching 3 different angles, you know you need to be on the 4th angle that nobody's watching. But you wouldn't have even known to think like that if you didn't know where all of your teammates were first. So knowing where your teammates are so that you know what to watch is very, very important. Not only is it important in that scenario, there's many other scenarios as well. Let's say you're in a 2v1 situation. Well, a 1v2 as an attacker or a defender is pretty easy to win. All you have to do is take 1v1s with each player instead of trying to 2v1, swing, and kill everybody all at once. So if you're in a 2v1, you need to know what your teammate is holding so that you can hold a crossfire and make it essentially impossible for that player to 1v2 clutch and kill both of you single-handedly. So being aware of what your teammate is doing so you know what to hold, or being aware of what they're holding so you know what to do, is very, very important if you want to be able to clutch more rounds, hold the bomb site better, attack better, and overall just be a good player. I've found that this tip single-handedly will get me Champion, because again, even in the higher ranks, you really cannot trust your teammates, so making sure that you're watching every single side of the bomb site or attacking every single side is very important. And that brings me into my last tip for this Diamond tip until we move into the final actual tip for Champion, and that is that you need to be finding angles that nobody else is looking at. So not only should you be trying to know what your teammates are doing so that you know where to push, but also you should know that if 3 people are watching one side, maybe you should go to a different side and hold a crossfire. For example, a lot of the times when you attack Cafe, everybody's dropping Red Hatch and everybody's on the Skylight. You being an extra person there really isn't going to do much. That's why you'll see some people get on the Cocktail Rappel and just watch white stairs all around. That way, when your teammates are pushing Piano, they don't have to worry about the white hallway, and you can usually get a free kill when a roamer comes up back to site. That's one very specific example, but you wouldn't have been able to do that example and get that free kill and win that free round if you weren't aware of what your teammates were doing so that you know what you should have been doing. And that is the entire point of what I'm trying to tell you for this tip for my Diamond players. If you want to be good, you need to know what your teammates are doing so you can make an educated guess on what you should be doing to help your team win the round. The game is a team game in the end, so knowing what your teammates are doing so you can help is always the best course of action. And that brings me into my final tip of this video, and that is my tip for champion level players. You might be wondering, what tips could you possibly bring to a champion? They're the highest rank in the game, why would they even need a tip? And, well, that's kind of a good point. And that's why I don't really have one that's individual. My only tip as a champion, if you really want to be a top champion, is to play with a 5-stack. As somebody who hits champion pretty consistently every single season, I know genuinely in my soul the only difference between somebody who is a low champion and somebody who is in the top 1,000 of champions is a champion that solo queues and a champion that is in a 5-stack. It really is that important, especially when you're a champion. Being in a 5-stack is much more lethal than when you're a plat in a 5-stack, because that means all of your teammates are reliable. They're watching every angle. They know all the site setups. You know how to play off of each other. You know every call out. You know how to be cohesive. You know how to double up. You know how to go for plants. You know how to go for executes. Like, being in a 5-stack is much, much more powerful when all of you are good. So because there's not really any individual tips I can give you because you're already in the highest rank in the game, the one thing I can say that will genuinely make you one of the best champion players alive is just finding a 5-stack. But with that out of the way, that is it for today's video. Check out this next video, and I hope I'll see you there.